David Bromilow from Mobaro, thank you so much for joining us today on the Attraction Pros COVID-19 video series. So glad to have you with us. How you doing, David?
Yeah, great, Matt. Yeah, hi, Josh. Yeah, good to see you guys. Yeah, I'm doing as well as can be expected under the circumstances. And I apologize for my haircut. I noticed Josh has got his hat on. Maybe I should have done the same.
It's going to stay on.
Yeah.
I joked that I'm going to open up a series of places called COVID cuts, but we're just going to sell hats.
Just hats.
Yeah, exactly.
I have a collection. I really should be wearing one today. I apologize.
No, you're good. You're good. So David, I know before we started the official recording, you said that you're super busy. So I know you're working with IAPA. I know Mobaro's got a lot of things going on. So what are some of those things that have been keeping you busy during the lockdown?
Yeah, well, of course, as you know, Matt, I wear a relatively large industry hat as well as my Mobaro hat. And so over the past sort of 4, 5, 6 weeks, I would say it's really started to come together. And as you know, I work within the industry community, not just here in Europe, but also in the US and the far-flung places around the world, primarily with the sort of IAPA safety community. So the industry has really been coming together, and I have to say it's been an absolute privilege to work in this industry. And this is when it sort of really does come together. So on the industry side, yes, I've been working with some local associations here in Europe. I've been working with our global association, IAPA, who have been putting together some terrific sort of guidelines, some inspirational guidelines to help folks come back online. And my own company, Mobaro, we've also taken a decision to engage with the industry, not necessarily just our clients, but the wider industry, and allowing them access to our platform for free. And when we say that, we're talking about the COVID protocols. So as parks come back online, they're going to be changing their protocols, their checklists, their workflow programs, and audits. So we're offering our program as well. So that's been keeping me quite busy. But I found it very interesting and challenging also.
You mentioned the IAPA piece and kind of contributing to the IAPA's reopening guidelines. What were some of the contributions that you made from that standpoint as far as changing protocols and procedures?
Yeah, I mean, so what IAPA did under the leadership of the team in Orlando, they put together a small task group. And so there's probably about a dozen of us on the task group from various organizations, from large parks, small parks, medium parks. So we have a nice collective group of experience. And then this collective group of experience has been taking information from wider in the industry. So I sit here in the UK, and I participate with IAPA EMEA. I chair the safety committee with IAPA EMEA. So information comes in, and I've been channeling the thoughts of the members from Europe onto the panel. And also on the panel, we have medical experts. We have doctors on the panel also steering us with the science. So we're taking this sort of collective experience to ensure that we put some good inspiration together to help the members bring their parks back online to a high standard. And also to enable some consistency. Obviously, it's always going to relate back to the local health authority or the local government in your region. They're the ones that take an overriding decision on this. However, we're just trying to share good practice. And this group has done this. And the first document has been published and made available for everybody. And in fact, there's going to be a version 2 because we learn every day with this. So there will be another version coming out in the next week or so.
That's great. David, I'm curious too, working with all these different folks from different companies and even different parts of the world, we say we're all in this together, and we certainly feel that from an industry perspective. We're all working together, but I'm also curious because there's obviously very different cultures, whether you're in Europe or in North America, South America, Asia. So can you talk through kind of how different cultures are responding to this?
Yeah, we are, and it's going to be interesting, Matt, because we've in our industry we always talk about guest behavior. Well, that one's been thrown out the window because we're going to get a whole new set of behaviors, and the way we approach this again has an impact culturally. For example, the Efteling Park recently opened in Holland with no face masks. Some parks will be opening with face masks. Disney Shanghai had a super successful reopening. And if you look at the information they're providing there, when we talk about social or physical distancing, I don't really like the word social, but it's physical distancing. Mm-hmm. We talk about sort of 2 meters. I think, in the US, you guys talk 6 feet. In France, it's going to be 1 meter. In Belgium, it's going to be 1.5 meters. So it's, there are going to be sort of slight changes. So in Shanghai Disney, for example, after much study, they decided to identify where not to stand rather than where to stand. And again, that was a cultural thing, mm-hmm. and it worked beautifully. Whereas most parks in Europe will be identifying where to stand. So yeah, so there are some subtle changes, but I think all the overriding principles remain the same. We have to review each attraction and each activity on the merits of risk, and then put those various precautions in place. But yeah, you will see differences. I mean, crikey, it took us 14 years to upgrade the European standards on rides because of the differences between Italy, France, Germany, the UK. So essentially that's what we're looking at. It's mainly on the physical distancing that we're going to see some differences, and the approach of the guest. But I sincerely believe that we are, no matter where you are in the world, when we do open our doors again, we are going to be starting from scratch, and we're going to have to become great observers, which we tend to be in our industry anyway, on how our guests react.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and you also mentioned of what you're doing with Mobaro as far as opening up access to the COVID-specific checklist. Can you expand a little bit on that as far as what you and your team have been working on and deploying out to the industry?
Yeah, exactly. So the best way to view this, when you're looking at your protocols and your various procedures, I've been promoting the 2 streams. So there's the guest journey, and that actually starts online, really. So that starts with the information that you provide online, and it brings them all the way into the car park, into the park, into the attractions, into the shops and food and beverage. So you take a look at that journey, and so what procedures that we currently have in place are going to work, which procedures need modifying. So it's not just a case of seeing to be doing the right thing. You really do need to do the right thing. There is going to be a degree of a magnifying glass on us as an industry, bringing people back into our attractions. So your protocols are going to change. So for example, you may open a bathroom up in the morning and do a little 3-point checklist, and then go check it, later in the afternoon, make sure the napkins are stocked up and so forth. So with the Mobaro platform, you would go in and do your morning bathroom inspection, and it'll have some reference photographs on the platform. It has all your chemical information, your various procedures. It has reference photographs. So it's very detailed. It's not just a bit of paper with 6 points on it. So you go in there with an intelligent checklist. So once you've completed that and you submit that checklist, and again, the system works live. So back in the office, bathroom 1, that just turns green. We know bathroom 1 has been done. We now have a detailed record of the inspection. And then every hour, for example, the hygiene team will get a ping on their devices that bathroom 1 now you have to go and do an audit of bathroom 1. So that might be just 3 or 4 items that you have to satisfy in a checklist. You might have to do that every hour. And it's the same with the rides. What we tend to have in theme parks, we have duty manager programs where there's somebody on the management team that is the duty manager of the day. And they have to go around the facility and ensure they've done this and the place is clean and so forth. So with COVID, we're certainly recommending that the parks create some ownership in the program. So It might be a COVID monitor. It might be an area supervisor that's going to be managing the COVID elements of that particular area of the park. So this would be guest behaviors, this would be markings, the signage, the sanitizers, make sure they're stocked, make sure the wipe down protocols are being done and being done in a timely manner. So these are all checklists and functions that need to be delivered and delivered very accurately. So if I go to the coaster and the sanitizer dispenser at the queue line's empty, I can create a quick task, bosh, send that live to the hygiene team. They can be right there and stock it. So this all creates records, of course. You're creating a digital record now of all these activities. And so yeah, so that's where it's going to shine, really, as opposed to a pen and pencil and a clipboard. The system talks back to you, so it enables you to take care of all your audits and checklists in a timely manner and a live manner. Yeah. I hope that makes sense. It's a little more complicated than that, but you know, in essence, it is a very simple system to use as well. And because we can do it all online, then we can actually deliver this to anybody in the world. And we've created some templates to help clients onboard. We've got our online training process, the Mobaro Academy. So we can have folks up and running in a couple of days on this.
And David, I would imagine with all those records, you know, you don't want to think about the eventuality of someone saying, I got COVID at your facility, but it might happen, right? But now with that system, you could say, well, here's all our checks, and here are the standards that we're trying to uphold, and here's our records that we've actually done that. Is that part of the kind of the long-term vision that, hey, we've got ourselves covered?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, and of course, you know, theme parks, it's how Mobaro started. You know, when the company was put together, we said, okay, how do you open a theme park every day? We open it with checklists, so let's take care of that. So we created a platform that enables you to do intelligent checklists. So, you know, if the checklist is asking me to check a particular sanitizer unit, if I tap the button next to it, behind there is actually a photograph of the unit, the content, what's supposed to go in there, and the MSDS safety data sheet. It's also going to tell me to put my glasses on and my gloves. So that's smart, it's intelligent. But yes, Matt, you're absolutely right. The record keeping is key. So, you know, we could take a look right now. We could bring up a particular ride or attraction from June 3rd last year, put a filter in there, and all those reports pop up. So yeah, the record keeping, it's always important to us. It's just good practice anyway. But you're right, the scrutiny that we're going to be under, it's imperative that we can demonstrate that we're meeting our duty of care or exceeding that for our employees as well as our guests. Let's not forget the employees in this equation as well. Yeah.
Right. Yeah, no, and I think that brings up a good point that, you know, the record keeping, I'm guessing, then minimizes the risk of liability. So looking at it, you know, from a risk management standpoint, like Matt said, that if someone claims to have contracted the virus after visiting the facility, then looking at the record keeping shows that the attraction is committed to minimizing the risk. Certainly not guaranteeing that you won't get COVID by visiting, but of saying, look at everything that we are doing to minimize the risk there. So is it from a liability standpoint that it would minimize?
Oh, absolutely, Josh. Yeah. You hit the nail on the head. I mean, this is just good risk management. And, you know, again, the Mobaro platform was set up to do maintenance and safety inspections on rides and attractions from an engineering standpoint. So if a loop schedule was due for a wheel on a coaster, ping, it told you it was due. And it would tell you what loop to use and how often to do it and how you apply it. It's the same principle. It's just good practice to do. So when we talk about the rides and attractions, that's just good preventative maintenance. Here we are talking about managing risks. So we know we've got some risk. We're going to try and keep the residual aspect as low as we can, of course. But this clearly demonstrates through state-of-the-art digital technology that you are managing it. and you can demonstrate that.
Yeah, David, I'd love to switch gears just for. Oh, go ahead. What were you going to say?
No, does that sort of make sense there? Yeah, I mean, good record keeping is smart to do anyway, and and again, you know, we need to go a little bit slightly over the top. We need to stay sensible with this on how we do it. You know, we've got to take sensible precautions. You know, and if you do have an attraction, and when you do your risk assessment, and it really isn't looking good, park it, keep it closed. Yeah. Let's work on the attractions that we know we can manage and we can open safely for the team members and for the guests. And and if you take a sensible risk assessment approach, you'll soon discover what can be done safely and opened and what can't be.
Right. Yeah. I was just going to say before that, because a lot of what you're talking about, I think, obviously applies to the entire industry, right? And we see the entire industry coming together and kind of putting your IAPA or industry hat back on just for a little bit. You know, you've been in the industry for 42 years, I think you said. Although you can't tell it from looking at you.
The long hair hides the gray bits. Yeah.
But you know, what I'm curious about is you've seen a lot of things in the industry, and have you ever seen a time when the industry has come together like this before? Or is this something that's, I mean, obviously the industry, we like to work together anyway, and we share a lot, but it seems like this has kind of amped up our sharing and our working together. And I'm curious about your perspective on that, since you do work with so many different people.
No, you're absolutely right. And again, I've been privileged. I've worked in the industry many years, and I've worked all over the world in various capacities. As a general manager, as a ride inspector, as a ride installer. And so I have seen a bit of it all. But what I have noticed, Matt, and I have to go back now, sort of the sort of last 5 to 10 years, I've seen a gradual change. And that gradual change has been knowledge sharing. The industry used to be fairly closed many, many years ago. You know, it wasn't just the marketing folks that didn't speak to each other. The engineers really didn't talk either, from the big parks to the small parks. But really, the last sort of 10 years, I've seen a step change in the sharing of information, the sharing of knowledge, where the marketing guys still might not talk, maybe, but the engineers do. And the key to this has been safety. And as an industry, over the last 10 years, I've seen an absolute step change in the way we manage and the way we work in safety. And the industry has come together in a sort of a collective community, and not just an IAPA community, but as an industry community. And we talk to each other, which is absolutely fabulous. We share information, we share best practice. You know, if I've got a good idea on a checklist, by goodness, I'll share it with whoever's out there. But the rest of the industry does that as well now. And I think because the world, I guess, is a lot smaller today than it used to be. We've come together as a community now. And whether you're a park operating in China, Australia, or Austria, or the UK, you know, we do communicate more openly now. And I think that is just fabulous. You know, that's just been one of the greatest changes. However, now take that as a step change. Now, over these last 6-7 weeks, I have just been amazed at the response from the industry insofar as helping each other. And again, this doesn't matter if you're a small 3-ride park or a water park or an FEC or a large corporate group. They've all come together, Matt, and it's just been a privilege to work within that community. And I think education is another area as well. And again, it's all on the back of safety. But you and I have both seen it at Ames, and you know it's happening across the world as far as people coming together now on educational platforms. Mm-hmm. So I think the fact that the world shrinking the way it has actually brought us a lot closer together.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
What do you think the reason was that there wasn't as much sharing of information? You know, obviously there is the competitive nature of particular businesses within a specific geographic region, but does it go beyond that as far as just wanting to protect best practices in-house within an organization?
No, I think, back in the day, and, Josh, I can no longer get fired for this, but I used to loan gearboxes and motors out to my park competitor down the road. The boss didn't know about it, but I used to. But there was an element of competition within the industry, but again, over the last sort of 10, possibly 15 years, I've started to see this change now. And we're a much better industry for it. We're a much safer industry for it because best practice in safety is absolutely paramount. And IAPA, I think, have done a tremendous job with their various outreach programs around the world by sharing best practice through the Global Safety Committee, through the Safety Committee in South America, through the Safety Committee in Europe. We all work together and we find what's best, and then we share it within our various regions. And it's been a privilege to be a part of that. And because I chair the Safety Committee in Europe, and I also sit on the Global Safety Committee, I've seen that firsthand of how that works. And but the parks, the old days, the old bad days, he's a competitor, the chap down the road, if he's got a ride down, I'd loan him parts, he used to loan me parts, we've always done that, maintenance guys, certainly, we've always done that for each other. But no, it's the collaboration on the higher levels now. It's not underground, it's overground, it's openly done now.
Yeah. And I think you're right, especially now that has really helped people get back up to speed and figure out what they're going to do. And, you mentioned again before we started recording this concept of Pathfinders. And I'd love to tap into that a little bit because it was really an interesting take on sort of how we move forward. So can you kind of talk us through what you mean by that?
Yeah, I just love the word anyway, Pathfinder. But no, Pathfinders, as an industry now, we're starting to come back online. And again, I talk about as being as a global community, which we truly are. It's a very close global community. So we're starting to see parks come back online now in Asia. We're starting to see parks come back online now in Europe, in Germany, in Holland. And that's going to be happening progressively over the next few weeks. So we do have this sort of wave, I was talking to a chap in Seattle last night. Now he's quite a number of weeks away from opening his facility, but they're certainly taking a look at what's happening with what I call the Pathfinder parks. And the Pathfinder parks are these guys that are coming online now. They're coming online, and we're going to have to learn from this, Matt, because we don't know. We don't know how best to gain that confidence of our consumer, of our guest. We don't know how well sanitization is going to be working, on restraint checks, on masks, how our guests are going to perceive that. So it's so important to learn now from these parks that are coming online. And we have the platforms in place, we've got the knowledge sharing in place. So we're starting to get information coming back in now into our workspaces so we can learn. And that's one thing we do in this industry. We do learn from each other. And again, this is by coming together as a small community, we can do that. So so these facilities now are coming online, and we're starting to think, well, goodness me, we all assumed they would turn left when in fact they're turning right. So we can learn from that and we can apply that. So as these parks come online now, we can share that knowledge, hand it back, and people can deploy that in their procedures and their programs. For example, the Efteling put out a tremendous video last week on YouTube. So the first people they told about that was the industry. So, hey, this is what we're doing, guys. See what you think, And depending on where you are in the world, you're going to pick some things out of that and say, we could use that as well. And that's sharing, and that's, and again, that's where the industry is becoming engaged.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. No, David, this has been a really interesting conversation. It's great to hear what you and your team with Mobaro are doing to help the industry move forward, and of course your involvement with IAPA, with the greater industry, and talking about what parks are doing from this Pathfinder standpoint. So,
Yeah.
as we kind of wrap up here, any final thoughts or anything maybe we didn't cover that you'd like to share?
No, I think we've covered it. And again, it's the wider community, Josh. And again, it's not just myself, working on a task force with IAP. There's many people out there doing it, and whether it's the association in France with Schnellac, whether it's the UK with BALPA, we have all these various industry associations that are all coming together and collaborating. And I think the spirit of that is just absolutely fantastic. And we need to, we've got a season to salvage. And, and sure enough, I think we are going to get the opportunity. I think in the UK, we're going to be slightly later. We're going to be in July when we start opening our attractions. But by coming together and by putting these policies and procedures together from the learnings within the community, parks in the UK, parks in Belgium, in France, they've got this sort of industry collective knowledge of good practice, and they can present that to the authorities. And I think, don't do this on your own. We're a much wider industry, and I think if we had to do it on our own, we would be struggling a little bit. And I think because we've come together as a community, we've put together these wonderful procedures and policies on safety, on how we can do it safely, how we can welcome our guests back and our staff back safely. We can demonstrate, good practice, and that's because of the community. And we don't want people shouldn't have to work as individuals in this. That's what's happened. The industry has come together.
That's fantastic. And I think that's a great way to kind of encapsulate all the things that you were talking about, right? So if anybody's listening, if you feel like you're on your own, reach out to someone, right? Reach out to David, reach out to Josh, reach out to myself, reach out to someone and get connected, because you're not alone. I think it's a great sort of lasting message.
Well, Matt, that's just tremendous. Yeah, you're not alone. You're absolutely right. And, we're a big advocate. We sort of wear our little name badges at the parks. And I think, as an industry, we've come together with the slogan sort of, well, how can I help? And no matter who I've called or written to, friend, foe, or, how can I help? And I think that's just a tremendous spirit.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, and that's why Josh and I put this series together, because we thought, how can we help in this time? And so we thought we'd reach out to people that are doing great things and share their stories. And that's really where this came from. So David, I want to thank you again for your time today. It's been wonderful catching up and seeing you again and hearing your stories. And so I hope you stay safe, stay well, and keep your family safe. And we'll see you hopefully soon in person. And until then, I hope you keep helping people.
No, thanks, guys. And again, thank you for providing this platform. I have been catching up on a couple of the podcasts, and I've picked up some very useful information. I got some great information from Eric on his cast as well. So again, you're part of our community, and sharing this sort of information is only very helpful. But thanks again. Yeah, you two take care, okay?
Will do.
Appreciate that.
Thanks, guys.